Let's get some analysis now from CNN's legal analyst Lisa Bloom and attorney Victoria Toensing, a former federal prosecutor. She established the Justice Department's terrorism unit during the Reagan administration. Thanks to both of you for coming in. Victoria, is it even appropriate to raise this issue right now, like this advocacy group that Liz Cheney's involved in is doing?
Well, if this isn't about who somebody represented, that's not at all the issue here. That misses the point. It's about whether certain lawyers have deeply held philosophical beliefs that are at odds, contrary to declared Justice Department policy. Let me just give you an example. 1970s, Vietnam War, the draft dodgers. Should the Justice Department bring in people who are opposed to the draft to prosecute those cases? Would you take a lawyer who was opposed to, wanted to have all the narcotics laws repealed, once legalized drugs, to be a drug prosecutor? No. And so I think people are jumping the gun here. It's step one. Were there lawyers in this group who came into court and said, no matter what, these military commissions are illegal? I don't care if the Supreme Court said that they are legal. They're illegal. They're kangaroo courts, and nobody should ever be tried in them. Then those people should not be deciding about how detainees are treated.
Lisa, what do you think?
Well, there's a fundamental misconception here, and that is that a lawyer and a client do not necessarily share the same values. I'm an attorney. I've represented many clients. Some of them I agreed with, some of them I didn't. But the job of the lawyer in our system is to represent everyone, even unpopular people, even despised people. You know, the former Supreme Court Justice Thurgood Marshall, in my opinion, one of the greatest justices in U.S. history, represented many criminal defendants, including felons. He then decided matters of great constitutional law, including the death penalty. And his background as a criminal defense attorney informed his decision-making. And it is the same here. We shouldn't be conducting a witch hunt into what people as attorneys did before they came to the DOJ. If you want to ask them what their values are, whether they're loyal to the policies that they're working on, fine. But who they represented in their past lives as attorneys is entirely
I assume,
irrelevant.
Victoria, you've represented individuals who did all sorts of bad things. You don't agree with what they did, but you felt the legal responsibility that they deserve to have proper legal
well, that's not
legal
the point. Lisa's entirely missing my point. I'm not saying that attorneys should be affiliated with what their clients do. I have never argued that. I'm saying if you have gone to court and say this system that you have to now uphold should not be used, then that's a very different matter. It is so different. As I use the example, should somebody who thinks all the drug laws should be repealed be a drug prosecutor? Lisa does civil rights work. I'm sure she wouldn't want to hire somebody who thought that all the civil rights statutes should be repealed. And that's what this is about, and it's not making any accusations yet. Let's just find out if that's where these lawyers are, if that's what their beliefs are. It has nothing to do with who they have represented in the past. It has to do with how they've argued in court as to what should be done about military commissions.
You understand the nuance, the point she's making, Lisa?
Yeah, I do. And again, I think it's fine to ask people what they believe in. You know, many attorneys in fact, attorneys have an ethical obligation when they're in court to zealously represent the interests of their clients. And attorneys may have made arguments in court on behalf of their clients because they felt that was the appropriate argument to make under the Constitution and the statutes and the laws. It may not be what they really believe as a matter of advocacy and policy.
But one other point
to ask people what they believe, but ask people who they represented, an entirely different question. And that's what's on the table here.
But Lisa, you're missing one point. A lot of this work is pro bono, and I don't know about you, but when I do pro bono work, it is really something I believe in. When I write op-ed pieces, it's because I truly believe what I am saying. And so whenever I do pro bono for somebody, it's because I really believe it. I do a lot for government people who I think have been screwed by the system. So when you do that, it's on a different level than just an ordinary course of representing a client.
But a lot of people do pro bono cases, for example, in the death penalty area because they're opposed to the death penalty. It doesn't mean they're in favor of rape or murder or whatever the underlying crime was.
Absolutely, but you just made my point.
Our systems, I say God bless them for representing the despised, because that's what attorneys need to do, and there aren't enough attorneys to do that, to uphold the Constitution.
You would not put those people in charge.
That's what's on the table here.
But you would not put those people in charge who are opposed to the death penalty in charge of deciding if you have a Justice Department that said we will apply the death penalty where appropriate. You would not put those people in charge of that.
Justice Marshall was opposed to the death penalty. He was on the Supreme Court.
Lisa, should the Department of Justice release the names?
Absolutely not. I think it creates a terrible precedent. It will make it even more difficult for despised people to get attorneys in the future. Absolutely not.
What do you think, Victoria?
Of course, this is a transparent government, is it not?
So you think they should what about calling them the Al-Qaeda 7 as this ad calls them?
Well, of course, that's what adds to get your attention. Look, you're talking about it. It worked, but I'm talking about it in the context of if lawyers are in the Justice Department overseeing areas that they don't think should even be applied, then I think we should know about it because our terrorism law is being carried out appropriately. That's what this is all about. I'll tell you this, I'm much more open than the current administration. Do you think that any lawyer who did a whole lot of legal work but lobbied for a cigarette company could even get a job in this administration? I mean, talk about making a decision on people you've represented.
I'll leave both of you with a quote from Reginald Brown. He was a lawyer in the Bush White House. He said this, he says, "It's beyond a cheap shot to suggest that a lawyer is an Al-Qaeda sympathizer because he advocates a detainee's position in the Supreme Court." We'll continue this discussion. Ladies, thanks very much to both of you for coming in.
Thank you.